I'm Dawn Hill, host of Heart, Mind, and Purpose, a podcast where we explore what it means to live an aligned and wholehearted life. I am a professional counselor with over 25 years of experience and a deep love for meaningful conversation. I bring you honest reflections, soulful questions, and meaningful tools for managing life. Whether you're seeking clarity, connection, or simply a space to breathe, this podcast is here for you. Tune in weekly and join me on the journey.
Welcome to Heart, Mind, and Purpose, the podcast where we explore how our inner lives shape the way we love, connect, and grow. Hi, this is Paul Gramercy, producer of today's episode, where Dawn walks us through a compassionate and practical understanding of childhood trauma, what it is, how it shapes the developing brain, and why traumatized children often communicate through behavior rather than words. She introduces the principles of trauma-informed parenting and the powerful PACE approach, offering caregivers concrete tools to help children feel safe, regulated, and understood. This conversation shifts our perspective from managing behavior to recognizing what the child's nervous system is trying to protect. Now here's your host, Dawn Hill.
Welcome back to Heart, Mind, and Purpose. Today we're going to be talking about something that is often misunderstood, often mislabeled, and very often missed altogether, and that is childhood trauma. Because many times what looks like defiance, rebellion, disrespect, or even emotional volatility in a child is actually a nervous system that learned how to survive something overwhelming. In this episode, we're going to look at what trauma really is, how it affects the developing brain and body, and how we as parents, caregivers, educators, and helpers can begin to respond in ways that create safety instead of shame. This is where we move from asking, what is wrong with this child, to asking, what happened to this child? And that question changes everything. A child's developmental trauma is an emotional response to one or many distressing experiences that exceeds one's ability to cope. It is important to understand that trauma can be different for everyone. An event may not be traumatic to one child and may be very traumatic to another child. Trauma can be a single incident or complex. Single incident trauma is related to a one-time event, such as witnessing an act of violence or a single occurrence of abuse or a natural disaster. Complex trauma, on the other hand, refers to the impact of chronic exposure to trauma, such as ongoing abuse by a parent or others. Complex trauma is more common than single incident trauma, especially in children in foster care. Some people think that if a child is too young to remember the trauma they experienced, it won't affect them. However, research shows that even if a child can't remember what happened to them, their body will still experience the impacts of that trauma. Moreover, childhood trauma significantly impacts a child's relationship and social interactions. Traumatized children may find it challenging to establish and maintain healthy connection with peers, family members, and authority figures. Trust issues, fear of abandonment, difficulty with boundaries, and problems with attachment can all stem from early traumatic experiences. These relational obstacles can persist into adulthood and affect various aspects of life, including intimate relationships and professional environments. It is important to note that not all children who experience trauma will have the same reactions or long-term effects. Each child's response is unique, influenced by various factors such as their age, temperament, support systems, and resilience. Effective intervention and support, such as therapy, counseling, a nurturing environment, can play a crucial role in helping children heal from trauma and mitigate its long-term impact. Understanding childhood trauma and its consequences is vital for parents, caregivers, educators, and professionals working with children. By recognizing the signs, providing appropriate support, and promoting resilience, we can enhance the well-being and long-term outcomes of children who have experienced trauma. Some examples of common trauma are neglect, physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, death, loss, or the separation from family, community, or school violence, serious parental illness, bullying, extreme poverty, war and displacement, and life-threatening accidents or illnesses. The most common trauma responses are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. These responses are ingrained in the body and the brain. They help keep people safe in dangerous situations. These responses can vary from person to person. One person might become speechless when confronted, which is a freeze response, while another might resort to physical aggression, which is the fight response. Some choose to befriend the threat, hoping that it will keep them safe, which is the fawn response, and others flee the situation entirely, which is the flight response. Here is a quote by Bessel van der Kolk from his book titled The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body, the Healing of Trauma. He says, "We have learned that trauma is not just an event that took place sometime in the past. It is also the imprint left by the experience on the mind, the brain, and the body. This imprint has ongoing consequences for how a human being manages to survive the present." Trauma results in a fundamental reorganization of the way the mind and the brain manage the perceptions, and it changes not only how we think and what we think about, but also our very capacity to think. The brain develops more rapidly in infancy and in early childhood than at other stages of life. As a child grows, their brain forms and strengthens connections, each creating a different pathway. The more often a pathway gets used, the stronger it becomes. Unused or infrequently used pathways get discarded, and this is called pruning. Children without trauma usually develop healthy response pathways that guide them through everyday situations. When a child experiences and responds to trauma, their brain focuses on reinforcing trauma-related pathways, discarding other pathways. Trauma responses become part of their brain wiring. Trauma triggers, due to their history of trauma, your child's amygdala, which is part of the midbrain that registers danger and then signals the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, is extra sensitive. Their amygdala can be activated anywhere at any time. An activating event is something that occurs outside your child's trauma but reminds them of it. Sometimes the child is aware that they are becoming activated, and other times they may not know what is happening to them. Even when a child is completely safe, a smell, a word, a facial expression, a song, or even a posture can bring them back to their traumatic experience. When a child is activated, they will return to their trauma response, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. The best way to handle an activation episode is to develop some standard operating procedures, so to speak, for when one might occur. So those procedures could be, first of all, recognizing what activated them. Secondly, check and verify safety. 3, soothe and ground the person. If possible, create distance from the activating experience. And number 5, acknowledge the difference between then, the trauma, and now, safety. Saying something like, that was then, but you're safe now, you're here now, we are safe. Developmental trauma applies to traumatic events that occur in utero or during infancy, childhood, and youth. Developmental trauma refers to both the traumatic event and the impact on the body and the brain development. Young children are often the most vulnerable to this type of trauma and the most impacted by its effect. Next, there's intergenerational trauma, which refers to a phenomenon where the effects of trauma on one generation is impacting following generations. The lasting impact of trauma on a parent can influence their behavior, communication style, parenting, and connection with their children, who in turn are affected by the trauma experienced by their parent. For example, Holocaust generation, or the Great Depression, or even 9/11. Symptoms and effects of trauma can appear in many ways, and here are some common examples. In the physical, there is heightened cortisol level, fatigue, headaches, pain, eating and sleeping disorders, weak immune functioning, and worsening of existing health issues. On the emotional level, there is unpredictable and explosive reactions, higher rates of mental illness, anxiety and increased sensitivity to stress, fear, feelings of helplessness and shame and withdrawal. On the behavioral level, there is highly reactive or dysregulated behavior. Poor impulse control, difficulty making and keeping friends, risk-taking behaviors, and challenges with attachment. And on the cognitive level, there's difficulty with problem solving, language delays, difficulty recognizing emotions, concentration challenges, poor memory, and challenges understanding and recognizing social cues. There is a thing called ACEs. It's adverse childhood experiences, and research studying ACEs show the linkage between potentially traumatic early adverse childhood experiences and heightened risk of long-term health issues. If a child has experienced one or many of the following events before the age of 18, they have experienced ACEs. And this would be things like experiencing or witnessing violence, experiencing abuse or neglect, having a family member attempt or die by suicide, growing up in a house with substance abuse problems, mental health problems, or instability due to separation of family members being incarcerated. Many children have experienced one or more ACEs. As the number of ACEs increase, their risk for chronic health problems, difficulty with employment, mental illness, and substance abuse and use increases. Being aware of ACEs, fostering loving relationships, and a safe environment are all important steps to help protect children from further traumatization and the consequences of ACEs. Is it possible to recover from trauma? Yes. Both adults and children can heal from trauma with persistent, nurturing, safe relationships, support to learn strategies to regulate, and the education and time to work through the experiences and pain. A child can grow beyond the trauma and live a long, healthy, and happy life. Trauma-informed parenting is an approach that acknowledges the impact of trauma on a child and responds with empathy, understanding, and consistency. Here are a few principles that guide trauma-informed parenting. First, safety. Children who have experienced trauma often feel unsafe, even in a non-threatening situation. Trauma-informed parenting is an approach that acknowledges the impact of trauma on a child and responds with empathy, understanding, and consistency. Here are a few key principles that guide trauma-informed parenting. First, safety. Children who have experienced trauma often feel unsafe, even in non-threatening situations. Trauma-informed parenting emphasizes creating a safe and predictable environment to help the child feel secure. Second, trustworthiness. Building trust is crucial. This involves being reliable, consistent, and honest in all dealings with your child. Number 3 is choice. Trauma can make a child feel powerless. Trauma-informed parenting emphasizes giving the child choices whenever possible, helping them regain a sense of control. And then 4, collaboration. This involves working with the child as a team, validating their feelings and involving them in decision-making, like simple things for what do you want for breakfast, this or this, or what clothes would you like to wear to school today, this or this. Giving them a simple choice helps rebuild that sense of powerlessness and helps them feel involved and empowered in their own life. And 5th is empowerment. Trauma-informed parenting focuses on building the child's self-esteem and resilience and affirming their strengths and promoting health, healing, and growth. Applying the principles of trauma-informed parenting can inform the lives of children affected by trauma experience, and here's how. First of all, it fosters healing. The predictability and safety provided by the trauma-informed parenting creates an environment conducive to healing. Feeling safe allows the child's nervous system time to relax, paving the way for therapeutic interventions and healing processes to take effect. Second, builds trust. Consistency and reliability in a caregiver's action helps build a strong, trusting relationship with the child. This trust is the bedrock upon which healing and growth can occur. Number 3, it restores control. By giving a child choices and involving them in decision-making, trauma-informed parenting helps restore a sense of control, which is often lost in traumatic situations. 4, boosting self-esteem and resilience. Through affirmation and empowerment, trauma-informed parenting can boost a child's self-esteem, helping them realize their strengths and ability to overcome adversities. Recognizing the signs and symptoms of trauma will help you respond appropriately. Trauma presents itself in a variety of different ways. It can look like a child is misbehaving, rebelling, being aggressive, or purposely disrespecting you. These are common behaviors for a child who has experienced trauma. Try your best not to take it personally. Responding to trauma allows the caregiver to teach the child they are safe. When your child feels safe, their healing process can begin. A consistent routine is vital for children with trauma backgrounds. Surprises can be stressful and alarming. I'll give you an example from my own life. When we were married early on, my husband planned a few surprise parties for my birthday, which was wonderful and sweet. However, he didn't know, and I didn't know how dysregulating that would be for me, how it re-engaged my trauma experiences, and I froze at the first part of the surprise. I just froze. And then it was really difficult to re-engage, although I did my best, and it was baffling to him. It was confusing for me. And over time, as I began my own healing journey, I began to understand why surprises were so stressful and alarming for me, and triggered earlier trauma experiences, because surprises aren't the greatest thing when you've had a trauma background. So try to keep your family on a regular schedule and ensure your child knows how their days and weeks will look to a reasonable degree. Use a calendar or visual schedule so your child can access and understand what the day is going to hold. Safety is predictability. You can take that one to the bank. Every time you have safety in a child's life, they have predictability. So if you have predictability, they have safety. Age-appropriate choices are crucial to help your child gain a sense of control and learn that they are trusted and valued. Simple daily choices can make a difference. For example, let them choose which book to read at night, which color apple for a snack, what PJs to wear to bed. If a child can't make a choice, try collaboration instead. Easy access to things they need is also a crucial part of safety. Ensure that your child has easy access to water and snacks. Remind them that they can get a glass of water or a granola bar anytime they want. Make sure that they can grab a sweater if they are cold or change their shirt if it's itchy. A child who has experienced neglect, poverty, or abuse may not know that they have these options. So safety is a choice, and accessibility is very important. A traumatized child's behavior isn't defiance. It's a form of communication. Anger often hides pain. What looks like refusal may be fear, and silence may be a way to feel safe. This is not about making excuses. It's about understanding what is really going on within the child. Now that we understand the principles and benefits of trauma-informed parenting, let's explore some concrete strategies caregivers can use. First of all, consistent routines. Regular routines provide a sense of stability and predictability, and this can be as simple as consistent bedtimes, mealtimes, and daily activities. Second, open communication. Encourage open conversation about feelings and experiences. Validate the child's feelings and reassure them that it's okay to talk about their trauma if they wish to. Number 3, mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Teach your children techniques to manage their stress and anxiety, such as deep breathing, age-appropriate yoga, or mindfulness exercises. And number 4, provide professional help. Do not hesitate to seek professional help if needed. Therapists and counselors trained in trauma can provide valuable support for you and your child. Let's look at 10 trauma-informed parenting strategies. So these are strategies that you can use for parenting. First, understand trauma and behavior. Recognize that behavior problems in traumatized children often stem from coping mechanisms developed during the trauma. Avoid interpreting their actions as deliberate, disobedient, or disrespect. Number 2, establish safety. Create a safe and predictable environment. Consistent routines, clear boundaries, and physical safety help children feel secure. Address any triggers that may evoke fear or anxiety. Number 3, build trust in the relationship. Traumatized children may struggle with trust due to past experiences. Be patient, be reliable, and be empathetic. Show them that you are a consistent and caring presence in their life. 4. Develop emotional regulation. Teach emotional awareness and coping skills. Help children identify and express their feelings appropriately. Techniques like deep breathing or grounding exercises can be beneficial. Number 5, speak the unspeakable. Encourage open communication about trauma. Create a safe space where a child can share their experiences without judgment. Validate their emotions and listen actively. Number 6, recovery and self-care. Recognizing that parenting traumatized children can be emotionally demanding. Prioritize your own self-care to maintain your sense of well-being, especially if you are feeling burned out. Seek support from professionals or support groups. Number 7, advocate and coordinate. Work collaboratively with schools, healthcare providers, and social services. Advocate for your child's needs and ensure they receive the appropriate support. Number 8, learn about developmental trauma and ACEs. Understand the impact of early adverse experiences, including verbal, physical, or emotional abuse, neglect, parenting separation, and household challenges, recognizing how these experiences affect brain development and behavior. Number 9, use the PACE approach. PACE is playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. Is a trauma-informed approach that focuses on building trust, relationships, emotional connections, and containment of emotion. It helps children feel safe and supported. And number 10, promote resilience and coping skills. Teach resilience building techniques such as mindfulness, problem solving, and positive self-talk. Encourage children to express their feelings through creative outlets like art or play. So I'm going to explain the PACE approach in detail here. First in PACE is playfulness. It's the P. That means you engage in play, spend quality time with your child. Playfulness helps develop connection and helps children feel safe. Use humor. Lighthearted moments reduce stress. Share jokes, funny stories, or playful interactions. Now, I know, like, if your kids are like first grade or kindergarten or even anywhere else in elementary school, their jokes can be just silly and not very funny. But go ahead and indulge in those and maybe share a joke that you remember from your childhood. The goal is to build safety with your child. Then be creative. Encourage imaginative play or storytelling or an art activity. Number 2, the A, acceptance. Unconditional love. Show acceptance and love regardless of the behavior. Validate their emotions without judgment. Acknowledge feelings. Let them feel and express their feelings openly, and avoid dismissing or minimizing their experiences. And normalize struggles. Remind them that everyone faces challenges and it's okay to feel a range of emotion. Number 3, C, for curiosity. So ask open-ended questions. Show genuine interest in their thoughts and experiences. Enter and explore their world. Or explore triggers. Understand what triggers their anxiety or stress. Curiosity helps uncover underlying issues. And learn together. Research together the topics that interest them. Curiosity builds connection. And finally, E, for empathy. Listen actively. Be fully present when they're sharing their feelings. Validate their experiences without judgment. Put yourself in their shoes, understand their perspective as best you can, and empathize with their struggles. And model empathy. Show empathy towards others, reinforcing its importance. An example scenario might be, imagine your child has had a tough day at school. They share their feelings with you and you respond using PACEs. So it might go something like this, the P, for playfulness. Let's go outside and swing and talk about your day. A, for acceptance. I'm here for you no matter what. It's okay to feel upset. C, the curiosity. Asking what happened and can you tell me more? And E, for empathy. I understand how that must have felt and I'm here to listen. The importance of trauma-informed parenting extends far beyond the immediate aftermath of the traumatic event. The skills and coping mechanisms children learn through this approach can serve them well into adulthood. By learning to understand and manage their emotions, children can foster healthier relationships, excel academically, and navigate life's challenges with greater resilience. Moreover, the secure and trustful relationship built between a child and their parent or caregiver through trauma-informed parenting can serve as a model for future relationships, allowing the child to form healthier, more secure relationships into adulthood. As we wrap up today, I wanted you to remember this: a traumatized child's behavior is not defiance, it's communication. And when we learn to respond with safety, predictability, empathy, and connection, we give that child something their nervous system may have never had before: the experience of feeling safe. Trauma does not have to be the end of a child's story. With nurturing relationships, consistency, trauma-informed care, healing is absolutely possible. I'll include listener handouts with resources and key points from today's episode on my website, and I hope this conversation gives you a new lens, new patience, and new hope as you care for the children in your life. Until next time, may you be kind to your heart, clear in your mind, and grounded in your purpose. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Heart, Mind, and Purpose. In today's episode, Dawn explored how trauma impacts a child's body, brain, and behavior, and how trauma-informed parenting can become a pathway for healing. By creating safety, predictability, and connection, caregivers can help children move from survival mode into growth and resilience. You can find resources, listener handouts, and information about trauma-informed care at dawnmariehill.com/heart. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode as we keep exploring how the heart, the mind, and our sense of purpose all work together for a life well lived. If you have questions or comments, please contact Dawn at heartmindandpurpose.podcast@gmail.com. For a listener handout and additional resources on ACEs and trauma-informed care, visit dawnmariehill.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.